Hi, my name is Megan Jameson, and this is my literature review of a literary article for Read 884. I picked this article based on what I deal with currently at my school and what I felt like would be very applicable. So the article I picked is titled Developing Literacy Skills Through Collaborative Tasks for Emerging Proficiency English as Additional Language Learners in Quebec. So throughout the entire text, they use EAL, which means English as an additional language. It was published in 2022 in the TESL Canada Journal by Caroline Payan and Philippa Bell. The article addresses task-based language teaching. So essentially how the tasks focus throughout different parts of language and the effects it has on students who are learning English as a second language. It is worth noting that in this specific article, they're focusing in Quebec as it's listed in the title, which means that Quebec is not a immersive school program. All of their core subjects, French, mathematics, science, social studies, are taught in French. So English is considered another class or a second language. But as we all know, in Canada, they do speak both. And so they have found it important for kids who are learning English as a second language when it tends to be French as their primary one. The article outlines a multi-day task that has a focus on higher level literacy skills that go beyond the fact calling part of a text. So a lot of teaching when you're working with someone who is learning English as a second language is more focused on those lower level skills, just basic reading, phonics, your graphemes, your orthology. It's really focused on the littler spots of it rather than some overall like comprehension and do you understand what you're reading? How are you going to form your own opinion and thoughts? And I found that this article was really interesting for that because of the need for higher level literacy skills as literacy and the standards are changing. So a summary of my article, this is just a little bit about it, but it creates a detailed lesson plan created for students ages 11 and 12. I currently work with students ages 9 and 10, so this would be kind of their next year up. So what they consider 6th grade would be more of what we would consider 5th grade. The task they are going to be doing is they create a fundraiser for non-profit organizations. The initial aspect of the task asks students who are grouped into threes and they're given a reading about a nonprofit organization. This could be the ASPCA. This could be in America, it could be like St. Jude's. It could be different types of organizations within your community that have an impact. Once they have read, they check their understanding with another person who had the same article. I really like this aspect. I think the check-in with a peer to confirm someone's comprehension really gives students an opportunity to figure out if they were right or wrong on a low stakes application. It's not like answering a question in front of the class where everybody's going to hear. It's a one-on-one conversation with somebody else who read the same exact text as you, seeing if there were different things that you guys all thought of. So once they've read and checked their understanding with another partner to see if they match up, once the initial reading is done, they present their article and their thoughts to a group of 3. They essentially become an expert in just that nonprofit. Then they begin creating their fundraisers while drawing on specific evidence, which is really important. We've talked a lot about how evidence has become more and more important as we continue to teach literacy, and it's no longer can you answer the question, it's can you answer the question and back it up with something else that's concrete. So I really like that that was a focus in this lesson. They then present their information and they choose which organization they then want to create a fundraiser for. Okay. The details in the article discuss different scaffolds provided to students. One of the examples is those initial texts that they read are also provided in French later. So they are asked to read them in English first, then they are also given to them in French to double check that they understand what is going on. Now, this could be any primary language. This could be Spanish. This could be Chinese. So it could be like Mandarin. You could do Japanese. I just recently, in the last year, had a student who came from Brazil. So it'd be Portuguese. So because the lesson isn't necessarily intended to be a language lesson, it's to it's intended to be an overall just literacy lesson. I found it really useful, the culmination in how they show their knowledge. So they begin first with reading the prompts, then they move to the discussion. They do the one-on-one discussion, and then they work in their triad or their group of 3 to be figuring out which one they want to do. That's another discussion. They have to persuade people, which oral language development in this course has been a very heavy and consistent topic. And then finally, it takes the students going from reading, collaborating and discussing to collaborating and writing. It's a multi-day lesson that really addresses everything at a challenge for an EAL student. So English as an additional language learner, and really stretches their literacy skills. You don't see writing come into play until later on in the language development. And so I think that getting them to write even just the littlest bit about their fundraisers would be really great. Another aspect that stands out to me is the focus group, or the focus targeted group, is a set of older students. I always see a lot of literacy development for English as a second language for younger kids. I'm talking kindergarten, first grade, second grade. I currently work with 4th graders, so I don't see a ton of research that extends beyond the primary grade levels into the intermediate ones. And this is specifically the time where they're working on creating that comprehension and those writing skills. And so from that aspect, it was nice to see a study that actually focused on an age group that was similar to what I worked with. Why did I pick this article? I chose it for a lot of reasons. One of the main reasons that I chose this article is I work with a high amount of students who are learning English as a second language. Now, again, I will remind you that this is primarily for a non-immersion school, whereas mine would be more of immersive because we are constantly using English. So the dynamics are different, but the philosophies and the collaborative message stays the same. There is very little information about emphasizing those high-level literacy skills. As I stated earlier, your comprehension, your writing, compared to the multitude of information available regarding your lower literacy skills, your phonics, using cognates, things like that. So when working with older students, it's really important that they do understand what they're reading, and so to be able to express that orally and listen to other people express that is really valuable for language development and cognitive development. And then just being able to translate their thoughts into some writing pieces is a whole different aspect that really pushes this from just a reading lesson to a literacy lesson. It takes it that next step up, which I think is really important. Ways that I wanted to incorporate this into my practices. I really like the format of the lesson in which they read, discuss, and then write. I don't think our curriculum does that really well. It's a lot of read, discuss, read, discuss, read, discuss, and then our last module is writing. And then it's so much writing that students are very hesitant and kind of almost reject the writing process because that's all we're doing for 3 weeks. So I really like the way that it's more condensed into that reading, discussion, and then writing aspect to give students an opportunity to really form their thoughts. I also really liked the confirmation of comprehension in the triads, allowing them to truly just explore those comprehension skills and have that conversation one-on-one is a lot less daunting than if it were to be the whole group. And then the best part in this article, in my opinion, is just real-world application and research. I really feel like a lot of curriculums don't give you the opportunity to push things out into the community. And so being able to research and look at nonprofits within your community can be something that is really beneficial for kids. And I think pushing them out and having them see what the issues are in their own community is super important. So that's my favorite part. This is my reference page. I really just referenced only this article. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed.